Hello and welcome to episode 126 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we are source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering. In particular, their online client, MTG Arena.
And we have a new set that is coming out in September, so we're finally going to talk about some cards that have been getting spoiled over the last couple of weeks. It's quite exciting. New spoilers for us because there's been a lot of spoilers for like Commander Masters and a bunch of other sets, but finally we're getting a new standard set, and so we are actually pumped for this. Woohoo!
Yeah. it's been a long time. So
Yes. So finally, our summer of like this weird stagnant standard is going to be over, and we're going to get something fresh, something new. But first, each episode we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's and then drink mine. Rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
all right. We are closing out our Sawdust City tap takeover. And I don't want to say we saved the best for last, but we certainly saved some interesting stuff for last. So fans of the show will know that we love ambers here. So we have saved an amber for the final episode. This
Mm-hmm.
is Lo Siento, and it is a Mexican amber lager.
Mm-hmm.
Zach was pointing out just before we started, it is made with Mittelfra and Hersbrucker hops, neither of which I've ever heard of. So I don't know what to make of this. But it has our famous Sasquatch friend
Bing, bing,
from
bing.
previous cans operating some sort of food truck.
Yeah. Not
I'm
well.
excited.
It's a mushroom food truck, as well as that
Of course.
that Sasquatch Papa Gnu is holding a can of Time is the Distance, which is another
Right.
beer that they
Just
make.
like he was on the Papa Ganu.
So very very cool. Jeff, let's crack these and see what's up. Oh, but with that, Jeff, we have some magic news. So
Mm-hmm.
the Arena Open is this weekend, August 26th and 27th. The format is Arena Cube. So Jeff, is this the first time we've had an Arena Cube open? I can't
I want to
remember.
say yes, but I
I
can't remember
I
100%.
I think so. Which is really cool. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I know there are a lot of people who love cubes, so
mhm,
getting to play
there,
high stakes cube, like this might be the first official time that that's happened ever,
yeah,
really.
like the first time you could play cube to qualify for the PT or
Right.
something. That's pretty sick. Win thousands of dollars playing the Arena Cube. Pretty cool. So anyway, that's happening this weekend. Go check it out. Also, currently, until September 4th, there is an event. It's historic no ban list. So this event is all access and it has no entry fee. Um, and basically, you can just play any card that's on Arena. So your Lightning Bolts, you're playing Okos, you're playing Channel is the big one. Doing some
Ooh.
busted busted stuff, brainstorms, all of that jazz. Um,
I mean,
uh,
is this going to be more of a dumpster fire than historic already is, or just a different dumpster fire?
yeah, so I think it's a different dumpster fire, and I did see a tweet by Saffron Olive saying that like even though this event is really fun, they should have kept Channel banned because it's ruining everything. Like it dominates every match, and how it just
Channel
like
is a ridiculous card.
yeah, like playing Emrakul like way before you're supposed to do it at all. It's just whatever is that turn two
Right.
Emrakuls and stuff like it's.
Is that what we're doing? Not Ulamog? I guess
I think
Ulamog doesn't even
both.
have anything to target anymore.
Yeah, so it's just
It's so
like
early that it can't even exile two land. It only gets
yeah,
one. Like,
one like that sucks.
come on.
Um, anyway, so I've seen some screenshots and they look rough. So but it seems like a fun time. Go find a deck list online. Events free. The thing is, you don't really get good payouts because it's a free event. So there's like 1,000 XP up for grabs. But like free event, weird format. This is the kind of stuff they should do for weird formats, I think. Where like it's free and you don't have to spend any wild cards. Good
Yeah,
job. So
yeah. I wonder if they're testing the waters of like, what if we just unban everything and let historic do its own thing?
I would like them to do that because who fucking
Just
cares?
revisit the ban list because historic has a weird history of it was supposed to be not competitive, then it was
Hmm.
supposed to be competitive, and then it wasn't supposed to be competitive. Like, so the eras are coming, or the bans are coming from different eras
Hmm.
that may not align with its current
Exactly.
goals.
Also, like we have talked about how Cons of Tarkir is coming before the end of the year. And as far as I know, like we were talking about this last or 2 weeks ago, but we were thinking the fetch lands would not be part of it. But everyone I've been seeing online is talking as if it is going to happen because they said the
Mhm.
full set of Tarkir. So they're just expecting fetch lands to be in Historic by the end of the year, which okay, if that's the power level they're going to go to, then sure, unban a bunch of shit, make it crazy,
Yeah, if
go
there's a
for it.
place for fetch lands, it's in digital only formats, I guess.
Exactly. So that makes the most sense. Also, everyone's going to craft all of them immediately, so that's good for business, I
Even I
guess.
might. I'll
Yeah,
never play historic, but I just want to have them.
exactly. Um, if they come in old border, oh,
Ooh, we get
I
the
guess just
onslaught ones.
the onslaught
Yeah.
ones. Uh, anyway, also during all of September, while you play at your local game store, that is a WPN, the Wizards Play Network, you get 1,000 experience points for each time you go, up to 4 times. So you can get 4,000 experience for going to play Paper Magic at your local game store, which includes your pre-release, which is usually the only time I actually get to get out there, have some time to do it. Um, but hey, go build up your experience for the new set. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, not to rehash last time too much.
Hmm.
It's awesome that they're finally getting these connected. It's ridiculous that it took this long and this is all we have, but hey, this is what we got
Yeah.
connecting paper magic and online magic for the first time. Big win.
Yeah. And this is the kind of thing where if this is something you like and want more of, you please go and do this
Yeah, do
because
it.
they're gonna look at these numbers and decide whether they want to keep it up or not. So yeah, go
Exactly.
out, play some paper magic. But also, Wilds of Eldraine releases on Arena on September 5th, which is, of course, after the paper pre release events the weekend before, September 1st to the 7th, and then officially releases for paper products on the 8th, um, which is, the best way to do this. I, I just like to say this every time. This is the way. Paper pre release, then Arena, and go on from there. The years where we had Arena first and then the pre-release was always weird and funky and
It's weird. You had like sharks at the pre-releases
mhm,
who had played, dozens of times already,
mhm, like
knew the
me.
ins and outs, or trying to scam the free pack or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like,
and you're like teaching everyone how all the cards work because you've already played with them a bunch of times.
yeah,
Just didn't look good
it's
for a
just odd.
pre-release. It was odd. This is so much better, even though technically we get the cards a week late. It's just better for the game. So, great job. All right,
I
Jeff.
remember the good old days before the internet. Like the internet was always a thing in
Yeah,
my life, just so people know.
yeah.
But like you would go to a pre-release and some people would know all the cards because they looked it up, but it wasn't so pervasive in the culture.
Hmm.
Most people didn't know anything about what was in the packs that they were going to open, other than like this set is an artifact themed set. It has these things like you might know the mechanics and like the themes, but mostly you were opening a pack, be like, "Whoa, what is this? Whoa, what is that?" And I know we just like cannot get back to that time, but that was a
Hmm.
lot. I
Yeah,
was also a kid, so it seemed cooler than it was probably. But
yeah, it's a lot harder, and like you just get really excited because you're like, oh, will this fit into the deck that I have? Oh, but maybe it doesn't fit into that deck, but maybe I'll build a deck around it. That kind of thing is kind of gone away a little bit. Some people still play Commander that way, but for the most part, if you have social media and follow any Magic account, that's almost immediately gone. So
right,
um, all of our listeners, are way past that and probably have, I'm sure you all have like memories, fond memories of when Magic and opening booster packs still felt like Magic. But anyway, back to spoilers. So we are going to be talking about new cards from the set, which we haven't done a lot of, which is perfect because we were saving it for this moment. But before we get right into cards, though we can still talk about cards with this, Jeff, I did want to talk about the new mechanics we are getting for Wilds of Eldraine. Or maybe we should start with just an overarching, we're going back to Eldraine type of thing.
Yeah. Wilds of Eldraine is a set that is in Eldraine.
Mm-hmm. There
Okay.
you go. that was perfect,
Yeah.
Jeff. I like that a lot. That was great.
I worked on that for a long time. I was crafting the
Mhm.
words, just wanted to get it just right.
It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So of course we're going back to Eldraine. We are getting adventures again. We have sagas, things like that. Things that like getting adventures again is exciting. But it's kind of like we knew this was going to happen. So not super exciting to really talk about. But we do have
Food
new
tokens
mechanics.
also back.
Sorry, one more time.
Food tokens also returning mechanic.
Right. Food tokens food tokens are so funny because they feel like they're just almost evergreen now because there's so many supplemental sets that have used food tokens that I just like don't even remember.
Which is because it's a great mechanic, by the way. Like food tokens are awesome. I know they went a little overboard last time when they were just introducing them. They didn't know there were a couple of cards that were maybe problems, but the mechanic itself is awesome, and they've proven that a few times in the supplemental products.
Yeah. So that's quite nice. But we do have 3 really interesting new mechanics.
I love them all. I love them all. I think this is the first time I've looked at like 3 totally brand new mechanics and been like, these are all great.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the returning mechanics that we knew are great. Like this is 5 super solid. I don't think I've ever looked at the set and been like, all 5 mechanics are really cool.
Bangers. I definitely agree with that because the first one has the, to me, dumbest name, but that's the only bad thing about it.
I think there's no question it's the dumbest name.
Yeah. So this is it's an ability word. It's called celebration, and it is the type of thing that's on a bunch of like spells and permanents and things, but basically it is an ability that cares if 2 or more non-land permanents entered the battlefield under your control during the turn. But the thing about this is great is that like it's primarily I think in like white and red. There's a lot of white and red cards that have this. So a lot of times you would expect this to be like, oh, if 2 creatures enter the battlefield or things like that. But no, this will fit in way more decks because it's just non-land permanents like Bloodtithe Harvester. It triggers this, things like that. Right. Where you're just like any card that comes into play and then brings another card with it, whether it be a token or a creature or whatever, which just makes it so much more interesting and just so much better, which makes me like it because I first read it as creature and immediately thought this was the worst mechanic ever.
I had literally the exact same thing. When I first read this, I read it as creatures because it's in red and white. And I was like, okay, whatever. Another one of these kind of like have a lot of creature mechanics for the Boros deck that just makes them run face first into a board wipe. But the fact that it's non-land permanent makes it so much more interesting because every deck can play it. All this incentivizes you to do is commit to the board, which is a good thing in Magic, to incentivize people to play cards, put cardboard down, and let's get some stuff on the board because that's where Magic really shines. I know some people love Drago control, and that's fine. I don't want to take anything away from that, but where I think Magic really shines as a game is when there's stuff on the board and everything's interacting with each other, and you got to figure out what to attack with, what not to attack with, what to tap, when to do it. That's when things are truly awesome. And I think that it's that simple change. And I
Mhm.
wonder if this was creatures at some point in its development, and then someone was like, no, we should change this to non-land permanents. And then it was just like they all had a celebration about that, uh, about that idea, and that's where the name came from. But yeah, no, this seems like a super fun mechanic because it can be used in the obvious way of let's deploy a lot of creatures, get some buffs, and like attack. But there can also be, just like you said, there's a lot of stuff in this set that makes a 1/1 and a food token, or it makes two 1/1s, or it may like there's just so many ways to trigger two food tokens. There's so many ways to trigger this,
Mhm.
and it can be used by everything up and down the chain from aggro to control.
Mhm.
Um, I think
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think that's really, really sweet. I do want to say the name is definitely because the March of the Machine is over and they're celebrating that the Phyrexians are gone. Um, that is actually exactly why it's called that. But I do like the in-game design idea, the
Yeah, yeah,
celebration. That's
no,
good.
that's what they tell you is
Yeah.
why it's
Okay. For
called
sure. For
that.
sure. For sure. Um, but no, I think this
Also,
is
it's just a simple mechanic. Just wanted to say
yes.
that too. Like anything that's really simple but
Hmm.
powerful and pervasive like this is one of those things that's going to be um it's not something you can just assume your card will always have celebration, right? Like you
Hmm.
need to do something to turn it on, but it's not that hard if you build your deck right to turn it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just that really cool back and forth mechanics like this tend to have.
Yeah. And also seeing which cards, like we were saying before, that can, um, where you only have to double spell to get it to go off instead of triple spell. Um, just
Right.
anything that brings anything else. Uh, any wedding announcements. I know that's in standard, but things like that. I guess that would have to be at instant speed, but um, I think it's just it's great. I'm happy with it, and it's gonna be awesome. Jeff, can you tell us about the next one? Because I know this is
Yeah.
the one that you're probably the most excited about.
Super excited about this, and I'm pretty sure the next one is the one you're most excited about. So let's let's do it in this order. Bargain. Bargain, another really simple mechanic, but in a way, I think of it as like it's another kicker, right? But it's sort of reverse kicker. So
Mhm.
bargain is an ability that allows you, when you cast the spell, to sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token as an additional cost. If you do that, you get a kicker. The cool thing here is that you can't sacrifice a non-token creature.
Mhm.
It's artifact, enchantment, or token. So you can sacrifice a creature token. But basically, it lets you kick your spell by sacrificing something, um, but it doesn't let you sacrifice the most common game piece, which
Mhm.
is a non-creature token or non-token creature. And why I think that's so interesting is that generally sacrifice effects let you sacrifice creatures and then maybe other stuff as like a let's throw in or artifact in there, or let's throw in like or enchantment based on the themes of the set. This one's like, no, you're not allowed to sacrifice a creature that we know you want to sacrifice.
Mhm.
Like it either has to be a creature token that you've put some work into to generate, or it's going to be something else. Um, so just if this is going to play so differently from most sacrifice mechanics that they've made in the past, but it is still a sacrifice mechanic, and most importantly, plays great with Anvil. So
Mhm.
who doesn't love it? Yeah,
It's true. There is actually a card that I'm wondering if you're going to put it in your Anvil deck. Um, probably not because it's too expensive and dumb, but it seems cool and strong.
hasn't stopped me before.
It hasn't stopped you before. Combo potential, combo potential.
Yeah,
But no, I think it's awesome and really changes a lot of your normal. There are certain like one drop creatures that you're just always wanting to sacrifice or want to die in different things, and this just completely
exactly.
cuts all of them out your deck, which is awesome. It really changes all the cards that you actually play throughout the whole deck. Yeah, very nice. All right, this is the one I'm stoked for, and I think this is so weird and exciting and different, but I'm surprised it's taken us this long to actually get to this point. And I don't know.
This is the highlight of the set, I think.
This is the one. So I definitely tried to make it so I could say this one.
You should be
But
the one saying this
yeah,
one.
but we are getting this new thing called role tokens. So roles are different attributes that you give to creatures, and the actual token is an enchantment aura token that you put on a creature. There are 6 different ones. It's technically 7, but one of them's only for commanders, commander player cards. But there are 6 tokens. So you can make a creature cursed, a monster, royal, a sorcerer, wicked, or a young hero. And all of them are fairly similar, which I think is really, really good and very strong for this, because 6 things is a lot to think about when you're putting rolls on stuff. Luckily, almost all the cards put a specific role on specific stuff. So it's not just like add a role token to a creature. It's like, no, you're going to curse one of your opponent's creatures. And what that does is if you curse a creature, you make an enchantment or a token that says enchanted creature has base power and toughness 1/1. So you just make them little 1/1s. As well as monster makes them, gets them +1/+1 and trample. Almost all the other cards give +1/+1, which is really cool. And it's really simple and easy. But I think this is great. As well as each creature can only have one role from each player. So if your creature is a monster, for example, that you give it +1/+1 to trample, and then later you put a like sorcerer roll onto it, which gives it +1/+1, and when it attacks you, scry 1, it will no longer be a monster, and it will become a sorcerer instead. Very nice. However, if your opponent makes curses one of your creatures, so it's a 1/1, and then you make it a monster, which gives it +1/+1 and trample, it will have both because there's one from each player. So important note for all you. Well, it'll be really important for the whole set, but as well as when you get into commander and stuff, they could have 4 different things. Crazy. But this is so exciting. We haven't had like enchantment aura tokens really. You rarely get like enchantment tokens, but even enchantment aura tokens, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is them doing like fully committing and doing aura tokens. And like I gotta play with these things first, but my initial read on this is they got it bang on.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you do it. There's enough of them that it feels like aura, because if it was just like, oh, it's an aura that gives them +1/+1, it's like, sure. But that doesn't really catch what auras do. They're different. They give the one that I want. Like you said, there's enough of them, but they're similar enough that it's not ridiculously complicated. But the key is what you said, that you don't have to, because if you had to like stack these things and probably remember what order they were put on, and like it would be such a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so that's whoever came up with that, of like, how about we just say you can only have one, and like the way we do that is we codify them with a keyword. And if you're a sorcerer, you're not also wicked, I guess. But like that's a really good idea, because I think that would have been lost on a lot of people who were like, hey, design an aura token. Because when you think of auras, you think of them stacking up, and that's part of the cool thing. But that's not really what is great about auras. So that's the part we can leave to the side because it makes things too complicated. I think they really hit the nail on the head with this one. And to top it all off, like, it's so flavorful too.
It's so flavorful.
I don't know if they've been sitting on this forever and just like, now's the time to do it because it's a fairy tale set. But either way, like, this is perfect.
And so this is them showing there's actually a commander product years ago like 4 or 5 years ago. Um, that was an enchantment based deck, and there was one card in it that was your commander. It was a planeswalker, and it could make um, mask tokens that you'd put on your creatures, and it would basically give it like totem armor. So you're basically just
Right.
it's just an aura that gives stuff totem armor, and that's it. Um, but I love that. I mean, so they had that tool in their back pocket, but they're just waiting for the right time to like really unleash it. And this is awesome. Also because like it fits so perfectly into all the other mechanics that we're playing with. So like
Exactly. Yeah.
if you want to play, if you have a creature that you're like, man, I really want to put a different role onto it, but I'm just going to lose the other one for no value, you can play a bargain card first, sacrifice that token slash enchantment, which it works for both, and then put a different or like role on it and attack with it. It's it's so good. It's so nice.
And all the cards that create these are usually permanents themselves, and so they
Mm-hmm.
trigger celebration. Right.
Boom.
So yeah, it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it all ties together so well.
Yeah.
And like the adventures, some of them create these and stuff. So
It's really it, it's just super cool. And there's one card that I think is really interesting about because obviously like with the roles you just like have a creature when it enters the battlefield it makes something royal or something like that, or
yeah.
all those types of things. But there is this one uncommon white card that's cursed quarter, I guess that's how
Mhm.
you say it. It's just like two and a white for a 3/3 human noble with lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, create a cursed roll token attached to it. So really, it's a 3 mana 1/1 with lifelink that you give yourself. But if you can either give it another roll to make that one fall off, or sacrifice that roll for bargain, then and also it triggers celebration on its own.
Right.
Um,
This card is super cool.
right?
It's,
It's it's so
yeah.
awesome. Um, like it, it's not. I don't think it's like strong, but I think it's perfectly encapsulates how interesting you could build this set. And it has a whole story to it. It's like this noble turning into a frog, which is very
Yeah.
fairy tale classic. Um,
Right.
it's I think
Yeah.
they did
Great.
it. They just did it. It's
And the funny thing is, like, in limited, this is probably better if it doesn't have that text, right? A 3/3 lifelink for 3 is
mhm,
better than this. In constructed, a 3/3 lifelink for 3 is probably not playable
mhm,
unless it has super specific types or like a raison d'etre.
mhm,
This might actually be better in constructed because if you're ever playing it, it's for the 2-for-1 card pieces of cardboard kind of thing. Like
mhm.
you probably like this probably won't see play in constructed, but you know, it's
Yeah.
just interesting how Magic is such a game that this is much worse than a 3/3 lifelink for 3 in limited, and probably quite a bit better in constructed, but probably still not there.
There.
But
But yeah, I just it. I don't think it's going to be the card I think about the most from this set, but I love that they found that piece. You know, to
yeah, yeah,
it
cool
just
design.
yeah, and some of the best things about Magic is like the little mini games that they give you where their card has weird drawbacks. Not that this one's crazy, but
And I love putting it at uncommon as well
mhm,
because not because it's too good to be a common, it's just too
just
weird to be a
yeah,
common.
you just don't want to see it all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, and new players will be like, why do I want this? It's like, you know, it's a good card that makes itself crappy on when I play it.
yeah,
Weird.
so and they'll be thinking of the wrong things of like how can I make it so that this doesn't trigger when it enters the battlefield. Be like no, you just need to. It's the long game. That's what that card
Yeah.
is.
You want to trigger celebration, obviously.
Yeah, duh, for
Noob.
3 mana.
Yeah.
Um, so, but anyway, I think there's a bunch of really sweet stuff in here, and also some really powerful things that will
Yeah.
be very interesting to check out as we go through all of this. But those are the new mechanics. Um, All of them, like Jeff said, bangers.
Yeah.
Home run slam dunks in the making. We'll have to see how they play, but hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited for this because these are some really cool mechanics that we have going on here, and the harmony between them. Yeah,
Mhm.
this could be a chef's kiss in terms of mechanics. You know,
Could be the first one. I don't think we've really had a set that's been like, oh, this is all awesome. There's
yeah,
always one that kind of sucks.
yeah, and you're just like, ah, I wish this wasn't here because then it would
Or
be awesome.
it's not even that you wish it wasn't there, it's that you forget it was there. You're like, oh right,
Right.
that had that. Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
never really panned out.
Right.
Which ultimately, celebration's the closest one.
Yeah,
there isn't a
that's
card in standard that really does it.
if we're taking bets, that's the one that
That's the one.
it's
Um,
probably might not make it.
yeah. Before we get into really exciting new cards or whatever, I did want to quickly look at a couple weird, not even weird, some uncommons that is just stood out to me as far as just like their rate and what they do. Um,
Sure.
so there's a blue uncommon. It's an enchantment aura, of course, because like that's what you do. Um, but it's
Mm.
called Bitter Chill. So it's one in a blue for an enchant creature, enchanted aura. And it's just like a dehydration. So it like enters the battlefield attached to a creature. It taps that creature. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Just those words for 2 mana is big because you never get just that for 2 mana. You always get something that's like either it doesn't untap or like it'll put it on it, but you don't actually get to tap the creature when you play it for 2 mana. For 3 mana, it will tap the creature, but for two, you won't get that. And so they're finally pushing this ability, and on top of that, it has upside. Where whenever Bitter Chill is put into a graveyard, you can pay one. If you do, you scry one and then draw a card. Which is the other thing that happens with this card is that you put it on something, the creature gets sacrificed, and then you just lose a card, and they made value off of it. So in this set specifically for limited stuff, this card I think is going to be a lot better because Bargain does not let you sacrifice regular creatures. So you don't have an inherent sacrifice outlet that just gets rid of whatever creature that you bitter chilled. You can get your card back, and it's super cheap and comes out so early.
Yeah.
Uh, I like this is the kind of stupid things that I like, and I was excited about this card because I'm like,
Yeah,
finally,
this
it's
is a good call out.
like it could be good. It could finally be good. It's been so this card has been so bad in so many sets that like we might have gotten a good one finally.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Wizards acknowledging. So, like, eons ago, this was what you got in blue removal. It was exactly what you said. It taps them, they don't untap, it costs 3 mana, and that was good. Those were always
Mhm.
top pick commons. Then that started to fade away. People picked them less and less, and now we're in a point where like that type of card is bad.
Like
It's just a bad card. You shouldn't pick it.
you
I think
shouldn't even put it in
even
your
last
deck,
time we
really.
went to Eldraine, like Charmed Sleep or whatever, was a card
Mhm.
that people thought was better than it actually was. Um, this is them acknowledging, okay, those cards are terrible, and we need to change something to make them what they once were in terms of limited removal for blue. And boy, is this pushed. Like, this
Mhm.
is 2 mana for the effect and a huge upside because the big downside, like you say, is they could sacrifice it. And that's part of why these cards have gotten worse as well. Not only is just cards gotten better, but sacrifice is just become more mainstream. There's just
Mhm.
always ways to sacrifice your creatures for benefit in every set now, which didn't used to be the case. And so the cards like this and pacifism just aren't good anymore. And
Mhm.
I remember it took me a while to learn that because those were just like, oh, in white, you're looking for pacifism. In blue, you're looking for, dehydration. That slowly had to like weed that out of my mind. And now I'm like, don't even look at those. They're terrible.
Yeah.
And so this is them saying, hey, we heard you. We agree. Let's give you something a little more palatable.
Yeah.
And they made it uncommon to,
Mhm.
reflect the fact that they think they might have pushed this too much, but they're going to sort of wait and see.
Yeah, I think I am happy for that. I think this card's going to be really good and limited, especially when you're playing white blue, which is all like tap your opponent's creatures and do stuff.
This card's an extremely good limited card.
Yeah.
Like that rider ability is massive. Scry one and draw a card
For one, like
if it just said draw a card, I'd be in.
yeah,
I get to scry.
I
As
get
well.
to choose. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be happy about those types of things, but this one has me excited to play blue. So yeah.
And was there another uncommon that you had your eye on?
Well, besides the reprint of Glass Casket, which is just standard,
Classic.
pops up,
Yeah.
Glass Casket's back. I was actually looking at white removal, which is Stroke of Midnight, which is just better Beast Within, or Generous Gift. These are cards played in Commander all the time. I think this will be good in. Okay, sorry. Let me just read the card. So, it's 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 white human creature token. Beast Within and Generous Gift both make 3/3s, and those are like solid things. Something that lets you destroy non-land permanents is like always something really strong because it kills planeswalkers, it kills everything.
Yeah.
And the little upside they get of the creature token is like not huge, but because this creature token's a 1/1 that doesn't have evasion, like this is much more interesting. And I don't know if this is really standard playable, but I wouldn't be like so. It wouldn't like surprise me so much that a deck would want to side into these if you're playing against like the Planeswalker, Esper Planeswalker decks or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just as some like a mono white weapon against those types of things.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. The one thing I'll call out is that Beast Within is destroy target permanent.
Mm.
And that's generally where it's played in Modern. It's sideboard against like Tron and stuff. But
Gotcha.
so it's sort of like Assassin's Trophy, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah, this is as low a drawback as we've seen on this in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Way back when this would just say destroy target non-land permanent, one black white. We don't get that anymore. Hell, back in the day, it's one black white destroy target permanent. But they don't do that anymore. So this is like them sort of moving back in the direction of just all-encompassing removal. And yeah, I think this is about as small a drawback as we've seen recently.
Yeah. I also think we're like, I don't know, I've been talking about Commander a lot, but like there was a push from Commander players to make white stronger color for several years. We are now since past that, and we've seen lots of cards since then be printed. I think this is also probably remnants of that, just being like, yeah, let's make white stronger. We've seen it over the last year or so, or maybe even 2 years. But anyway, seeing things like this, this mostly looks like this is for Commander in my mind, as well as hopefully a standard playable thing.
Yeah, it has an outside shot, I think, of appearing in sideboards for stuff.
Does it seem insane that this could just say permanent? I feel like you could just giving somebody a creature for a permanent sounds totally fine. I think we should just.
You can't. No, no, this cannot say permanent. The word non-land is essential.
I'm okay with destroying people's.
Imagine lands. A white weenie deck that's on the play and they just blow up your second land after going like 1 drop, 2 drop, blow up your second land.
They give you a blocker. That's good.
Yeah, a chump blocker.
Yeah. uh,
And by the
anyway,
way, they're doing that for the rest of the game because you know their hand was one drop, two drop, and four of these.
yeah,
So
totally. That's what always happens. Um,
um,
but anyway,
I
the
also want to, it's probably unlikely,
mhm,
but hey, man, if you're about to win the game, your opponent's at one, they kill your last creature, you can respond. Target
mhm.
your own creature, get a 1/1, fizzle their spell, and win. So
That's true. That is true.
sure that's going to
Uh,
come up all the time
who
with
know? I mean,
Stroke of
like,
Midnight.
not even just that, but Stroke of Midnight also hits food on your side of the table. Turn a food into a creature. Uh,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Nobody sees that coming. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't see the food
Haha.
food attacking for one damage thing.
Actually, in this set, you might, but
Yeah,
maybe we'll
actually,
get to that a little later.
we will. Um, but anyway, just a couple limited slash like little uncommon things that popped up. Just to me, Jeff. What are things that you're excited about for this set?
So I think one thing that maybe we just start at the top here and we talk
Hmm.
about the Planeswalker of
Okay.
this set. So this was spoiled a little while ago, so we've all had a bit of time to digest it, but now we have some context surrounding the set. Um, so this is Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator. It's 3 black black for Ashiok Planeswalker. It's 5 loyalty. It has a passive. If you will pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. Um, so if you're going to pay life for an effect, you get to exile from the top of your library instead, but it doesn't force you to do that if you don't have that many cards. +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them, put the other into your hand. -2, create 2 1/1 Black Nightmare creature tokens with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if a card was put into exile this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then -7, target player exiles the top X cards of their library, where X is the total mana value of cards you own in exile. Okay, so exile themed Planeswalker, super, super weird, but definitely powerful and interesting. What were your thoughts when you read this card?
My thoughts were that's a lot of words,
I
and
was gonna say when you read this card all the way through, like a few times to really process all the interactions, where'd you come out?
honestly, the beginning of it was just giving me like I want to mill my own deck vibes
Mm-hmm.
immediately. Was like, what blue black deck can I play with Jace, Wielder of Mysteries? That's his? Yeah, yeah. And like just pay a bunch of life with something, or something that I can, like, some creature, some stupid creature that says pay 2 life, give it something,
Right,
and I
with
just do
no
that many
other.
times,
Yeah, yeah.
just to like deck myself. But the rest of it, I'm really interested in, like, this kind of exiling cards that you're like, if this has some space in like a red deck, a red black deck, where you're exiling cards that you're going to play later, or different things like that, eventually to get to this -7, um because that's obviously the most exciting part about this card, is just doming somebody.
Yeah. Like total mana value of
That's
cards in
so
exile. Like,
much.
damn, that's pretty easy to make happen.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I th- I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head that the passive is the reason anyone would play this card in reality. Like
Hmm.
some sort of weird combo um, with Jace, like one of these pay X life, draw X cards things where it's like, okay, I'm not really paying X life. So now I can set X to 50, where the card sort of assumed I wouldn't be able to do that.
Hmm.
Um, like one of
but
those,
you couldn't do it to 50 though, because you're, unless your deck is huge, I
or whatever,
guess.
like
Yeah, yeah.
35. Like a lot of cards are designed assuming you're not going to be able to pay that much life.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it's like now I can pay up to 40 life or
Hmm.
45 life. Um, that's how this card's probably actually going to get used. I think it's a cool design where it's a new take on your sort of standard +1 draw a card, -2, 5-mana planeswalker, +1 draws a card, -2
Hmm.
creates a token, and ultimate wins the game. It's slightly more interesting, but still kind of follows that template.
Hmm.
And so uh, I like that. Bring back that template, but let's make it themed because that's what they've been doing recently. Is like planeswalkers kind of have a theme or whatever. This one has the exile theme. I'm not super pumped to go out and play this, and there's not a ton of
No.
other exiles going on to support it necessarily. Like there's stuff here and there. Um, but I think this is probably a really good design for the first set that has
Yeah.
only one planeswalker.
Yeah. I definitely agree that like coming back to this type of design of Planeswalker, especially because it feels so iconic, and
Mhm.
especially because we're only gonna have one per set, we don't have to get like really that like. Obviously, this is niche, but we don't have to get so niche into some of the planeswalkers we had that were just like boring because they were trying to be like, oh, this is only good for this one specific thing, and ended up just not doing anything. Um, which obviously this could easily not do anything either, but it does have like a single spot in a combo deck. I feel like that's where it goes. Some
Yeah.
deck that wants to just like find this card and do something weird with it. I don't even know. Um,
And I don't think it's so ridiculous for this to just show up as the top end in a black mid-range deck in
that's true.
standard, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like the -2 creates 2 creatures, that's not bad. And then you can pay some life and have them like they grow every turn,
Yeah.
probably. Like this could come down in -2 twice, and then you're paying some life, and suddenly you have 4/1/1s that are growing every single
Mhm.
turn.
That's true. Like
It's not the
this
worst.
that comes down, you -2 a couple times, and your tenacious underdogs really help this out because you don't have like you
Right.
exile the top of your deck instead of having to pay life, which tends to be what happens with that card. Is you eventually get to the point you can't play it anymore,
Right.
um, which these mono
So
black
it's
decks
not
are
like
hard to play.
unreasonable.
No,
I just think black mid-range decks have
better
enough
things.
better
Yeah,
stuff probably, and will forever because standard is 3 years long now. So
yeah,
uh,
and those decks are already playing shielded, so they don't care about like paying life. Um,
yeah,
so,
there's a better way to negate your life
so
loss.
yeah, this is actually a way for them to just lose the game,
Right.
because then they're just
Oh
gonna,
shit.
oh shit, whoops, I can't pay life like that anymore. Um, yeah, so I'm happy that it's here, but I don't. I think it's fine, which
It's
is
a good way to
exactly
set the stage for the
yeah,
one planeswalker set. It's
because
like, hey, this is what it's going to look like from now on.
I'm like, hell
Love it.
yeah, that's how I feel. That's what I want. I want it to be like, oh yeah, and there's a planeswalker, and it's kind of cool, but it's not the best thing, and you're not like
Yeah.
really, you're not like opening packs, being like, oh, I didn't open the planeswalker. Not that I've really felt that way, but people feel that way
Yeah. And this is what we can expect,
in the
until the
future,
one planeswalker in the set is Teferi.
and then.
Disaster. But
I mean, the last one we had wasn't that good, so
yeah, that's true. The last couple have been
mhm,
whatever.
whatever. We're out of that horrible world, but um, Jeff, quickly before we go to a beer break, I think we need a little bit of whimsy, and
Oh,
also the big discourse that's been going on. I'm going to bring some more uncommons to you,
okay.
but the
I was
big
not aware of this discourse.
all right, well, the big discourse of today is, of course, about power creep, and of course, about a cheeky house mouse. So, cheeky house mouse is a white adventure creature that costs a single white, and it's a 2/1. So, on its face, without the adventure, it's a Savannah lion.
Mhm.
So, in the 30 years lions are now just as strong as house mice. Not even like
Yeah.
feral mice, but just house
Yeah.
mice. This is just he's just a cheeky little house mouse. Um, and he has uh, an adventure that's a sorcery that's called Squeak By.
Love it.
That costs a single white and says target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater this turn. So it still can get blocked by a Savannah Lion, but um, anyway, I, I it's more so the talk about how push like a this mouse is a 2/1, and I just sometimes when you step back and think about it, like, wow, you have like 1/1 citizen tokens. Your goat is an 0/1, but this mouse is a 2/1. It's just
Yeah.
this mouse can kill a tenacious underdog, which is a boxer. Um,
Yeah.
just um,
Yeah. I mean, it's like the classic joke of like, Emrakul being there, like,
mhm.
no one can match my power. And it's like, oh, 15 squirrels. I did not expect such resistance.
No. Yeah, but you need like a little more than half as many house mice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just it's also great because this card like is totally going to see play in mono white.
Yeah.
Because you'll take a Savannah Lion anywhere you can get, um, especially one
Yeah.
that can squeak by.
I like the design of this card. And
It's super cool. Um,
why are we holding on to Savannah Lions? That card's ancient.
it's true. It's so true. And this isn't the first time people have joked about Savannah Lions and other cards that are better than
Yeah.
that. It's just funny that specifically it's like such a small animal.
I
And
wonder
it's,
if they did it on purpose, right? Because like cats hunt mice. It's just like, hey,
oh,
gonna
totally.
make a Savannah lion?
Hmm.
Let's make it a mouse.
It's just a mouse with like a ring in its mouth.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I anticipate to play a lot of Squeaky House Mouse in mono white weenie because like,
It's cheeky house mouse with
oh,
squeak by
sorry,
as the adventure.
I'm
Come on,
sorry,
Zach.
I'm sorry. uh Squeaky House Mouse, cheeky House Mouse, I'm sorry. Gosh, that's so embarrassing.
I know.
Anyway, I'm glad that you're holding me to it. um
Yeah. Should we start from the top or?
yeah, let's just like start the whole episode over again. um but yeah, this little guy, he's a cutie. And also very, this just looks like a classic Eldraine card because the adventure is the same color as the creature. So
Yeah.
uh
I'm not even sure this is a good limited card.
no, it's bad and limited.
Yeah.
um this is good and constructed. When you have four of them and you play one on
Is
turn one every turn.
is good the right word? Or...
Yeah, totally. Good.
A card you can play. Let's settle on. Let's meet in the middle.
It's good on turn one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also can squeak by later in the game. Perfect. Look at that. You can attack
Okay.
into a Shieldred. And that could be any creature. That doesn't have to be a little creature.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just saying. It does more than some of the other ones we've seen. Whatever. I You don't play mono white, so you don't know what we have. You don't
I'm
know
gonna
the
lose this card so often and
yeah.
never admit that it's good.
Yeah. It's cheeky.
That's the future I see within this card.
Hmm. It's squeaky and cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Squeaky and or cheeky.
yes, both of those things. Anyway, Jeff, I think it's time for a beer break, so we can talk about some more exciting cards, probably, as most of mine seem to be fairly underwhelming. But we'll see where we go. We'll see where we go.
Hey, I liked it.
Anyway, so we're gonna go on a beer break, grab some more beer, and be back with some more cards.
You're right back.
This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener. But if you want to support the show even more, the Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on which co-host you'd go on an adventure with by clicking the Buy Jeff a Beer button.
Or clicking the Buy Zach a Beer button. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to go on an adventure with a host.
Or if you'd rather go on Discord adventures, well, that's an option as well. You can join our Discord channel. The link should be in the show notes.
That's right, and it's free. Honestly, we just want to talk to you, but your money would also be nice. Uh, anyway, Jeff, I have a beer for us this evening.
Oh boy.
It's the last beer.
I've been dreading this one.
It's the last beer of our Sada City tap takeover, and I am also dreading this. I thought I wanted to pick this first originally and get it over with, but then every week I just didn't want to try it. So here we are. This has nothing to do with sawdust. It's just the first word in this beer has always been a big red flag for me.
Mhm.
And that is, it is a maple butter tart ale. So any beer I've ever had with maple in it has been horrendous. Um, I don't have high hopes for this one. I I just thought we had to get it. Like we have
Yeah,
to try this. Um, but I
yeah.
this is the
If you
first
say so.
this is the first beer on the show where I'm actually like afraid to open it. Um,
Yeah,
anyway,
so I would echo that thought. I've never had a
mhm.
beer with maple that I really liked. Um, but beyond that, I don't even like butter tarts.
You don't like butter tarts?
Do not
That's
like
like
butter tarts.
such a Canadian faux pas. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So I don't know what I'm gonna. It's like, do I want it to taste like what it says? No,
No.
no, I don't.
Oh my god. Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, it's 5%. Jeff, let's
Let's do
just
it.
rip the band-aid off. All right. Oh god, it
Oh
smells
man,
exactly.
this.
It
Sorry,
smells like
I
I
have no
thought it was going to
nails.
smell.
And... All right. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh man. Um anyway, this is a maple beer. You know, Jeff and I have a couple things on our list of like the worst things to put in beer. Um I think maple is one of them. For a long
Maple.
time,
Yeah.
banana was one of the things I didn't like, but I've had
Oh
banana
yeah.
beers that were okay. Um, Jeff, you had one. Was it like peppers or something?
Yeah.
Um,
I've tried so many spicy beers, and they're never good.
mhm.
They always sound great to me because I love beer and I love chilies, but it's never good
Yeah.
together.
Well, Jeff, I think we should just try this together. Like,
All right,
have our. Here we
let's do
go.
it.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Gotcha.
That's a beer. Oh boy. Anyway, let's
Hey,
talk about magic.
all right,
Oh,
let's get.
oh no.
Now I have to talk about food. Um,
Yeah.
okay, one card I wanted to talk about if we're following the random uncommon train.
Hmm.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Ariette's tempting apple
Mm.
because this is a bit of a divergence from normal design, I would say. So this is a 4 mana legendary artifact food token. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature until end of turn, untap it, and it gains haste. Whoa. So this is already like, hold on. This is colorless threaten or
Hmm.
colorless what's the
Active
word?
treason.
It's act of treason. Yeah. Then it has 2 extra abilities. Well, it's a food token, so it has the food ability, sack it to gain 3 life. You can also sack it to make an opponent lose 3 life and pay 2. So it's like the poison apple kind of
Hmm.
thing. First of all, I love the design of that, the food and the anti-food kind of
Hmm.
poison apple thing. But whoa, it's tempting and it's actually a colorless act of treason. Okay, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I this is
Didn't expect this.
I didn't expect this either. This was definitely not on my bingo card of like things I was expecting.
Yeah.
And obviously it makes sense that like attempting apple would bring a creature from your opponent's side to your side. Like obviously that makes sense. Um but I just didn't think that that's what that card was going to do. Um this is
I didn't
awesome.
think I would ever see them make a colorless Act of Treason. That's just a red ability forever, right? I guess not.
Guess not. Yeah,
Yeah,
cuz
love it.
love it. I like it doesn't even make me mad cuz like red and blue are the ones that get to steal stuff for like creatures. Blue also gets artifacts, but like I don't know. I don't think this is going to see a ton of play in other things besides limited, and it'll just be like you. It just changes combat math a lot. Being like, okay,
Yeah,
they can definitely have an apple because it's uncommon, and I could. It. I just think a lot of games are going to revolve around this card, which is really
yeah,
cool. Um, because like first picking an apple just seems like a really great way to start a draft.
right. So in terms of the aggro deck, like a lot of the problem with Act of Treason is it doesn't get enough damage through.
Mhm.
This is like Act of Treason +3,
Yeah.
right? Like on its own. So I don't know. This is pretty pushed. The other thing about Act of Treason is sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm dead on the crackback or whatever.
Hmm.
This can gain you
This.
3. So it's a really cool card. I'm interested to see how good it is. I legitimately don't know. And
Mhm.
I'm even interested in constructed just because it's an artifact that sacks itself and is an Act of Treason. Like it's bringing together everything that I want
Hmm.
right now. So didn't expect to see this design, but I'm happy with it. That's
I'm
cool.
I'm also happy with it. Just sweet. Oh.
Yeah. Now, speaking of sweet, we should talk about Greta, Sweet Tooth Scourge. This is another uncommon, but it's 1 black green for a legendary human warrior. When the ATB create a food, you can pay a green and sack a food to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature at sorcery speed. You can pay 1 and a black and sack a food to draw a card and lose 1 life. Great card.
Hmm.
Uh, love this. Anything that like turns food into other stuff, I always think is cool because food is kind of costed at this is what a food token does.
Hmm.
And so when you can make a food token do something better, you're usually getting that ability at under cost. But what you're paying is you need like synergy sort of. Like Greta kind of will do the whole thing once on her own. But if you want Greta to really be great, you need to play them in a food deck.
Yeah.
Um, so I think this card probably misses the mark a little bit in constructed. It's just
Hmm.
slightly too expensive. But this kind of thing is exactly what I love. Like, let's create this like food deck and has these synergies. And we're sacking them to do stuff they're not normally supposed to do. Uh, really cool card.
Really cool.
And I just love the name Sweet Tooth Scourge.
Yeah. Like these are awesome. I know people are really excited with this. My biggest thing, so this is part of like the uncommon dual colored cards that are in every set now that tell you what each color pair is looking towards and working for. Um, this is just one of the sets that has all of them be legendary creatures, which um, I have now grown more frustrated with and annoyed by.
Yeah.
um, Being like, dang it. Mainly because the card that I wanted to be able to play a bunch of was Obira Dreaming Duelist, which is the Dimir Fairy Warrior that has flash. It's a 2/2 with flying, and it cares about um, just as whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. I just want 4 of them, and this. I know the legendary creature thing isn't to stop this card from being too good. It's so you could possibly make it
I
your
don't know. If this
commander.
wasn't legendary, this could be pretty
Really,
busted.
it's a 2 mana 2/2. You can kill it so easy. You can cut it down. It'd be
But they
fine.
stack so outrageously.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's good.
Yeah, it might be a bit. It might be a bit pushed if it wasn't legendary.
They'd make it a 3 drop at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Ah, I know, but anyway, no. I do like this cycle. As normally they're very nice, but the one I like is the one that just seems like good and strong. But definitely not. I wouldn't consider it cool. It's definitely not
Yeah.
exciting in any way. Um, but I have also been realizing I think that's all the cards that I'm looking at. All the cards I think that are really interesting are like fairy cards that are all uncommons that are just strong.
Yeah.
And it just makes me want to play the fairy deck. Um,
See,
so
I
like,
just I'm all in on like some sort of Jund food sacrifice thing. I don't know exactly what it looks like. Does it play Anvil or not? But that my brain's just like finding all those cards, being like, this
yeah,
is awesome.
that's great. While I'm looking at cards like Ego Drain, which is a single black for a sorcery. It says target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. If you don't control a fairy, exile a card from your hand. So this is just like fairy Thoughtseize where you don't lose life. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you have to control a fairy, so you,
it's true. So they could
it's
kill
not
it.
like a turn
Like,
one.
it's it's not a turn one thing unless you, for whatever reason, want to exile cards from your hand. But
It feels like a bold play on turn one.
Ashiok, you're all in on the Ashiok ultimate plan.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I think that's also the good thing about that card. Ego Drain is teaching you how to play Thoughtseize better.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. It's
Or
like
like
stop doing it on turn one so often.
this card is a good like on turn 3 with a 2 drop play. Um, when your opponent committed to something, you could be like 2 drop fairy, 1 drop ego drain, and see what they got.
Oh, this is gonna mess people up when you end step the fairy you were just talking about, and then
Mm-hmm.
untap like, ooh, ego drains. Like,
Yeah,
damn, well, my whole hand sucks now.
yeah, and you're like, oh, and there goes the Shieldred for turn 4, or by
Yeah.
Liliana for turn 3, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Like in some formats, the decks are so explosive, you have to thought season turn one, whatever.
it's
But
true.
when that was in standard and stuff, people would just do it all the time. And I was always like, you should wait for me to
Draw.
like what you just said. I'm
Mm-hmm.
about to play Shieldred. That's the card you actually care about. Maybe on turn three before I'm about to play it, or turn four, depending on who's on the play. Like check and make sure. Like that's the best use of it.
Yeah. So
And this, like you're saying, it's really bad to play this on turn one.
it's really bad. Unless they come up with like the card that we haven't seen yet is like Fairy Ornithopter or something.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Just a 0 drop fairy that's an O1.
Ornifay.
Yeah. Ornithopter. Yeah. Um, but in that vein, there's a lot of really aggressively costed uh, cards that care about fairies. And so they're really pushing for this blueback fairies deck in standard. We are already talking about how much we spent the whole summer playing blue black in
Yeah.
some way or another. So um, I'll see how tired I am of blue black, but I think like that plus all the other cards I really like that are blue black, but get to add this good fairy synergy. It's not quite
Yeah.
rogues, like it's close, but there's a couple cards that are like feel rogue like.
Yeah.
Obviously not exactly there. We don't have our counter spell slash murder, but we have
That's a bummer.
mhm, but we have some good stuff. So
I don't know
very
why they don't give us our counterspell slash murder and our draw four at instant speed for four. I mean,
yeah. It's well, why don't we have that anymore? Well, I mean, there's a couple other things, not nearly as good, but
oh yeah, I'm definitely psyched to play some blue black tempo.
Yeah, some. I mean, I specifically want to play fairies, Jeff. Not
Oh
even
yeah,
just fairy. Even though not enough of the fairies have flash. I think every single time a new fairy is like uh released or like was spoiled, everyone's like, "Wow, it's missing flash." And I'm like, "That's exactly what I was thinking."
everyone's like PV.
Hmm.
Tried to tell them his card should have flash. They were like,
Yeah,
"Are you
exactly.
kidding me?"
You can't put flash on that.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, I think every single one of the like world championship winners has wanted to put flash on their card, and they're like, "You
Yeah,
can't
it's
stop."
just out. Flash is an outrageously good
It's like,
keyword.
no. Then your card has to be significantly worse or more expensive.
Right.
What would you
Yeah. We
prefer?
can make your card terrible in order to
Hmm.
accommodate that.
And they're like, hmm. So now my card just ambushes something. No, I don't want that. That's not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, so those are the things that are in my mind. I keep looking at these everything fairy, 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 fairy.
Nice. Yeah, I'm all in on the food train. So when I got the email, was it today? About a new spoiler for a food-based enchantment. I hopped on board. So
Hmm.
let's talk about food fight. This is one in a red for an enchantment. It says artifacts you control have 2 sack, deals damage equal to any target equal to 1 plus the number of permanents named food fight you control. Um, Again, like this ways to turn your like random artifacts you're just generating for free, so to speak, into tangible things tend to be pretty powerful. Now,
Yeah.
the enchantment doesn't do anything on its own. It doesn't create a food. If it created a food when an ETB, like we'd be having a whole other discussion right now about what the hell they were thinking. But it wisely does not do that. So um, this basically doesn't do anything when you play it. But turning all of your food tokens into shocks, 2 mana shocks, that's pretty good in a food deck. Like I have
It's
my eye on this one. It might be just too expensive, but I could also see this just being like, we go down a few months, people are like, what the hell is this card? Like food tokens are so easy to generate, or like
mhm,
blood tokens are so
classic.
easy to generate.
Hmm.
And it's just, you know, lets my opponent just dome me for 6 and then pass and then dome me for 4. It's like, okay, I'm dead. You know.
Yeah. Um, this was definitely a card that I saw. I think I actually saw this one leaked. So I saw like a
Okay.
really like uh rough version of it, and definitely was just like, I'm gonna wait until like it seems cool, but I'm gonna wait for someone to show me how cool it is, because I see the potential,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely in the
Uh,
spot where
I'm the
I
one who's going to be trying. Like,
okay. You
okay, imagine this though.
okay.
Imagine this card comes out and Fable of the Mirror Breaker were
Oh,
still legal.
jeez.
This would be ridiculous, right?
Oh god. That would be awful.
So that shows you how good this card is, because if you play it with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, it's good.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. That's how good this card is.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Um uh anyway, I let's see. Jeff, is this a good time to talk about the lands? Because I know we wanted to talk about them.
Let's chat some lands. Yeah.
Okay. So we have
So you got your standard plains, island, swamp, mountain, forest.
yeah,
Um,
those are all good. The arts are great. You should go check them out.
yeah, pretty cool. Not
Yeah,
my style, but if you like them, pick them up.
if you like regular lands, no,
Yeah.
obviously I'm talking about the rare dual lands that
Ah,
are creature lands. Um, and these ones are sweet. So we saw Reckless Fortress, which is the white black land a while ago that was spoiled quite early on. But the rest of these are pretty interesting, and we're going to see a lot of them. Um,
Yeah.
but Jeff, should we start with the best one or the worst one?
Hmm. Let's start with the best one. Let's start
Okay,
with the best
that's the easiest one to really pinpoint. The worst one's a
one.
lot harder to pinpoint. And that's what it was
Yeah.
a trick question.
Yeah.
Um, but do
I
you
was like,
want
I
to?
think I have a choice of the worst one.
Yeah, do you want to tell
But
us what Restless Spire does?
so Restless Spire enters battlefield tapped. You can tap it for blue or red, and you can pay a blue and a red to make it a 2/1 elemental with, as long as it's your turn, it has first strike, it's still a land, and whenever it attacks, scry 1.
What the fuck?
Yeah. As someone who doesn't tend to play blue red decks,
Hmm.
this annoys me, but I don't hate the design for a few reasons. Like, I think the first strike on your turn is pretty important.
Hmm.
Having this just be incidentally like a super annoying blocker,
Yeah.
I think would suck. It's like it's not what it's intended to do, so let's just not let it do that.
Hmm.
Um, that was smart. Like, I think there's a time in Magic's history where it just would have had first strike, and then that second clause is supposed to tell you this is an attacking card, not a blocking card.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate whoever like went out of their way to say no, it only has first strike on your turn. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is like, if you haven't played with creature lands before, they can tend to look underwhelming sometimes, or I mean, it depends on your perspective, I guess. But the biggest thing about them is how much does it cost to activate them? Because this requires 3 lands, right? It's 2 to activate. You could, you can activate this by tapping itself for mana. That's generally
Bad.
advised against.
You
It's
can't
not usually a
do
good
much
play.
with
it,
it.
it does randomly come up. I have actually
Hmm.
done that before because I needed a creature for something. Like, I don't know. It's
To
always a
sacrifice
weird
something.
corner
Yeah.
case. Yeah. Um, but essentially, you need 3 lands to activate this. That's unusual. Creature lands generally cost a lot more than that these
Hmm.
days. And so that's why I think we both identified this one as the best one, just because, hey, it costs 2, and a 2/1 first striker is a very real creature. So
Hmm.
the other ones can be a little more, they can promise like illusions of grandeur. They can promise you greater things. So I'm going to be huge if you attack with me 6 turns in a row. Or
Hmm.
like, I'm going to get you so many food tokens, but they're just so expensive that
Hmm.
it's a lot less realistic. So this one is the one where it's just like, yeah, it costs 2 mana and it's a real creature.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is sort of reminiscent of Treetop Village. That was just like, obviously Treetop Village is probably better than this, but like that was 2 mana for a 3/3 trample, and I think Wizards realized what the mistake they
Oh,
made on that one.
yeah. Um, but I do think this is sweet, especially with like there's a lot of like tutu samurais around and stuff like that, and a lot of like 3/2s or like 3/1s and things like that. So this will be able to
I do
tap
appreciate the two
in
one,
well.
so
Yeah.
like it can get pinged.
Hmm.
So there is some risk to activating this, which is nice. But most of the time, you're gonna get behind the other players. Like, you're gonna get behind the blue red player, so you won't be able to hold up mana to ping this down or whatever. And then
Hmm.
they're gonna be able to activate this without having to commit more
Yeah.
and probably attack through your stuff, like you're
Hmm.
saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, being able to like, turn 5 attack with this and hold up counter magic or the removal, like that's going to be most of that game, I think. So could be, I mean, is going to be something. I think blue red gets a big bump because they have this card.
Yeah,
We're going to see more spell stuff again. Um, I will say this is really the only creature land that has an actual like Actually, no, sorry. The blue green one has trample, like just straight on it. Um, but I was gonna say the other ones don't really have keywords. They just have like
Right.
all of these have abilities when they attack that do different things. But I like that they feel a bit different than the ones from that we had most recently. Um, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms,
Hmm.
because those were all monocolored, and a couple of them had, I mean, for the most part, they all had keywords, and that was a big part of it. And a few of them had like attack triggers, which were the ones that saw the most play. And this is seeing like, okay, all of them get attack triggers, but their actual like body, we're not giving like the black one's menace or the white one's flying
Right.
or things like that.
Sort of the opposite. They all have
Mhm.
attack triggers. Only a couple of them have keywords.
Exactly. And those keywords only matter for attacking. Um,
Right.
so, so yeah, I definitely like these, but like we just said, the blue red one is definitely the best one. Though I still think like we're gonna obviously see all of these. Everyone's gonna try playing them. Um,
Yeah. I don't mean to sound, negative on the other ones because all of these will be played.
mhm,
Like the blue red one might not even be the one that sees the most play. Whatever like deck ends up being the best,
mhm,
that's what's going to see the most play because this will just go in whatever plays it. Um, but the blue red one is, I think, the one that's good enough to push a blue red deck into competitiveness, whereas
mhm.
the other ones will just sort of be there because the deck is good and they're upgrades over the lands we have now for those decks.
Totally. I also think it's good to point. I was just talking about how much time and like energy it seems, or aggressive costed cards they were putting into fairies, which is blue black. And there's no blue black land, which I think is very
Yeah,
intentional. And I like that. Like obviously, as the player that wants to play fairies, I wish that I had a creature land that would went into it. But I think it's
yeah.
really
Where's my
smart.
creeping tar pit? But
Hmm. I think it's really smart that they did it this way. So it's like, hey, we gave you like good spells and things. All the other decks are going to have these lands. So it like there's a push and a pull of like, if I do this, I don't get this other thing that's really important, and we'll see which ones comes out on top. I think that's good. And honestly, Restless Cottage, the green black one, might be the one that comes out on top because we need the green cards finally come into the light with this food. We'll have to see.
yeah, I think I was gonna. That might be the one of the worst ones. I think the green ones are in contention for the
For
worst ones.
they are, but um, getting the like attack exile a card from a graveyard while also getting a food token. I don't know. It obviously doesn't have menace, which is the good thing about the Hive of the Eye Tyrant.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I guess 5 mana 4/4, no menace,
I feel like it's way worse than the ice
because he doesn't have. I know, I know. But it
Tyrant.
has a word. It has words on it that say Hive of
But
the Eye
it's
Tyrant.
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's reminiscent of it.
Yes. But
And
obviously,
this is someone who like this should be my favorite one just based on
mhm,
color pairs, right? So I'm just like maybe I'm looking at this being like I expected so much more. But
probably. Also, it is a cottage,
yeah.
which is more of a, well, I guess maybe a cottage is considered a land. Um, but um, but yeah, these are cool. You'll see a lot of them. I don't think we're gonna read
They're
all of
they're
them,
all
but
good. They're all good.
yeah.
Like creature lands are just good
Mhm.
because you tend to run out of stuff to do and this is something to do.
Yeah. And you look at them right now being like, they enter the battlefield tapped. That sucks. I hate tapped lands. I agree with you. I also hate tapped lands. However, how annoying would it be if your opponent could just play this and like activate it as a blocker immediately, and that's the
Yeah.
reason why they come to play tapped. So um,
So the previous cycle was pretty good design too, because that doesn't happen in the first 2 turns. So.
exactly, but at least they were monocolored, so you're not like, oh, that cycle was actually kind of frustrating to me because it was confusing when you're then playing with the slow lands and the fast lands, and
Yes.
you're like, oh, these only there's the first two, not the third, and it's like, forgetting that little piece was just like, this is just tedious and dumb. Why isn't it
Yeah.
just easier to remember? But anyway. Anyway, that's just another reminder that playing your lands in the right sequence is very important. And honestly, like one of the when you look at pro players and or they talk about those kinds of things, sequencing lands ends up being so much more important than you think.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, it could easily be the reason you lost when you play the wrong land on turn two. It's like
Yes.
everything comes back to that moment. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
mhm.
Um, all right, I have a totally different card
Okay.
I want to talk about, just because I think it's kind of cool. This is Godric, Cloaked Reveler. This is 1 red for a 3/3 haste with celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Its celebration effect is that it's a 4/4 flying dragon that can fire breathe for all dragons. That's pretty cool. So I think what's cool about having a card with haste and celebration like this is if you're able to create anything before
Mm-hmm.
this, then when you play it, this is a 4/4 flying hasty dragon with fire breathing.
Yeah.
So this is encouraging a lot of, okay, I can play this on turn 3 as a 3/3 haster.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally fine, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not up to par with what mono red plays these days because mono red gets some nice card quality, but it's close. Like
Mm-hmm.
3/3 haste for 3 is, you know, is totally reasonable. But just think about the end game on this. You can just like hold a 1 mana creature that are generally useless later on. You hold them, and then you just wait till you have a bit more, and you play the 1 mana creature plus Godric, and then Firebreathe. Like I could see this winning some games. That's just like, oh, I I just get you for 6 in the air.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
card, man. This
That's
is a card.
that's definitely a card. I think this is the first time I've actually heard of this card. I actually don't have it up on any of my uh any of the things I'm looking at as far as spoilers go. So this is all news to me. And it does
Yeah,
sound great, especially like Mono Red Dragon stuff, because they're already doing dragon things currently.
yeah.
I mean, slightly, but like that does
Again, it is legendary, right? So
mhm,
you can't do the whole
have
stack them up thing.
and
You
yeah,
can't do
which
like the
is
Godric into Godric
mhm.
double dragon smash.
Yeah, in this
Uh,
scenario, I'm actually like okay with that. Like if it
yeah,
if it's
that'd be pretty
if it's the
ridiculous.
card that I want, obviously I want to have as many as
Yeah,
possible.
like if
Yeah,
I don't want it to have a downside, if I'm gonna play the card, but if
yeah,
my opponent's
totally.
gonna play the card, it should totally have that downside. Otherwise, it's
Hmm.
unfair.
Yeah, and that it's just so rude. Um, no, it's this seems awesome, and yeah, good card, mono red. Hey, I don't want to like push it and say that this is totally going to be a thing, but like, yeah, mono red it can come back. I know we've been saying that for a few sets, but
You heard it here first,
yeah,
folks.
it's really
Been
really
in like
close.
10 years when Mono Red comes
Yeah.
back. Like told you.
um, so I have a card. It's an adventure creature. It came to my attention today, and
Ooh,
I think it's a card that would probably go. It could easily go in your deck just because it's raw power level. Um, but it is a green creature with a black adventure, and it is called Mosswood Dreadnought. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mosswood Dread Knight. It's 1 and a green for a 3/2 human knight. The adventure it goes on is Dread Whispers, which is 1 and a black for a sorcery adventure. It says you draw a card and you lose a life. And the actual knight has trample, and when it dies, you may cast it from your graveyard as an adventure until the end of your next turn. So
Yeah.
this is one of the interesting things they've been doing with some of these adventures. There's a few other ones that do this as well, but the typical adventure creature that we're used to is like 1 or 2 mana like spell for the adventure, and then a 3 mana creature, so that you can always play the spell and then always play the creature on curve, and it fits really perfectly in your game plan. This card does say like choose one or the other, and then you can play the next one on the following turn. However, it won't fit perfectly in your curve, so you are losing a mana advantage. But this card also lets you just go through a loop where it just doesn't really die. It goes to your graveyard, but as long as you cast the adventure, you exile it and then you get to play it again. And you just keep coming back. It keeps coming back and it keeps coming back in a way that it's so much more exciting than Tenacious Underdog, which is our, you know, kind of mid-rangey 2 mana 3/2 creature that comes back forever, that draws cards and you lose life. Like, this costs a similar amount. It doesn't have like the haste that Tenacious Underdog has that helps it kill planeswalkers, but I think I just like this better. And it's like, it fits so much better in your curve. You don't have to like, I mean, you've already said that you just are off Tenacious Underdog altogether. Um, but like being able to put it on an adventure on a turn and play a 3-drop feels good. Drawing cards for 2 instead of 4. You just don't have to waste your whole turn to do it. It's still a 3/2. I think you just get to play forever. I don't know. This card
Yeah.
seems really good and awesome. And
I also love this card. Yeah. It has trample instead of the haste, I guess.
mm-hmm.
But the big thing about this card over Tenacious Underdog is you don't have to, like, you can just play this for its adventure turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can play it as the 3/2 trample on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to do this whole
thing.
come back
Rigmarole.
later. And you don't have to pay all 4 at once. Like, the big
mm-hmm.
problem with Tenacious Underdog is like late in the game, a 3/2 doesn't always get in. It has to be a specific way the game goes for that to be a player.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I'm sitting there, I have Tenacious Underdogs in my graveyard, but it's like, what am I gonna spend my whole turn to bring this back? They're just gonna block it. Like,
Yeah, just
I don't know.
I'm gonna lose 2 life and then draw a card that's I can't get until the end of the. Well, if they block it, I get it for second main. But like,
But still, I spent all my mana. Like,
I can't.
just gonna attack into Shieldred, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then lose 2 life for drawing the card. This one gives you the option. You don't have to use all your mana to bring it back. You just have to use 2. Now, of course, this is a 1-turn window, so it is better. But there's going to be a lot of games where you're like, it's just not worth it, and you let this go.
Yeah, but you can also just, I don't know, the 2 mana is so much smaller that like,
yeah,
it can come back. It can block the Shieldred, which Tenacious Underdog couldn't do.
right.
You can just leave it on an adventure for as long as you want, and then bring the creature back when you want
it. That's the big thing, right? You pay the 2 on the next turn, but you don't have to cast the thing. You can cast it whenever.
And obviously, Tenacious Underdog and other like graveyard threats would get wrecked by like Graveyard Trespassers or anything that would exile things from your graveyard. And this gives your opponent only 1 turn to deal with it. Maybe not even that, because if you attack with it, they block with something, trade it off, then you put it on adventure immediately, and they have no time at all to try to get rid of it. So,
yeah. And obviously, I'm just thinking of this in some sort of dirtily sacrifice engine that just sacks this and plays its adventure and then plays it again.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Even though that's
Also,
probably a bit too slow.
yeah, possibly, but I do like this, and this kind of, like I was saying before, just the design of like making it less obvious which one you're supposed to play first, um, is
Yeah,
great.
in
I mean,
general, they've done a pretty good job of that in this set.
mhm,
A lot of them have more expensive adventures than the
mhm,
creature part, which I love because, like you're saying, it used to be play the adventure right into the creature. Um, this is a bit more. You make a choice. Playing the
mhm,
adventure is better because it's a 2-for-1.
yeah,
So let's make you work for it a little bit. I think there are very few cards that curve in the way that the previous set did,
mhm,
and even then, a lot of them are not the same color. So
yeah. So you really get just kind of like pushed into a specific space, or things that are just super different, or they're it's more so what's useful at which time, which I think is the biggest thing that I don't think we were completely missing it in the original adventure design, but the most powerful adventures weren't the ones that were situational, where it's
yeah,
uh, like this creature is good early, but the spell is good late. It was always the other way around, where it was like
right,
you always want to do spell and a creature, and those are all the good ones, and there's no reason to play the ones that do it the other way because they're not any good. Um,
yeah.
these ones, at least, like we have a few that are like in contention for like you could play this card, like it has the kicker effect of play it on curve, or you draw it late and you get a bigger effect that's just more
Like
interesting.
even the murder slash 2/3 lifelink
Mm-hmm.
card, Murderous Rider, wasn't actually very good
No.
just because it wasn't as efficient as the other adventures that were
Mm-hmm.
always this is always good on turn 1 or 2 and always good on turn 3 kind of.
Yeah, yeah, because like you know Bone Crusher, people are just stomping your face at the end step of turn two just because they wanted to get the two
All the
damage
time.
in because they're going to
But then
play.
you would be like, I'm not gonna play my 2-drop. It's just gonna
Mhm.
get stomped. So it's like, oh yeah, they're stomping my face, but is that a win for me? I didn't play my 2-drop. Like
Mhm.
this is what they wanted. At the end
Exactly.
of at the end of my turn, I don't have a 2-drop in play.
Yeah, and they get to play their 3 mana threat that's really strong, and now I have to play my something to block it. Yeah, it's just I just think we're gonna have a different experience. I'm hoping we're gonna have a different experience with adventures, and it really feels
Yeah,
like it. So
looks super well designed this
mhm.
time around. I'm
Yeah.
surprised they even have cards that are same color because I just when I saw the previews of
Mhm.
the adventure with different color adventures to the creature, I was like, that's just what they're doing. Um, which is true for the most part, but there are a
Mhm.
couple same color
Yeah,
adventure and creature designs.
which I still think is pretty good. Like we definitely have like a whole 10 rare slash mythic um, dual colored adventures, and then we have a few that are mono, but as well as one that's multicolored. Um, but yeah, Jeff, do you have another card that you're excited for that fits into your food deck or maybe doesn't?
Oh my god, there's so many. Um, so I'll quickly call out my love for Candy Grapple. This is 1 in a black with bargain. It's -3/-3 instant. But if you bargained, it's -5/-5.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of a card from Dominaria. So that was very similar. I think it was
Yeah,
-2/-2,
yeah.
but you could sack a creature to make it -5/-5. So this is even better, and it's called Candy Grapple, and it has a candy apple
Mm-hmm.
like eating a guy's arm. Love it. Uh, it's a candy apple with teeth that's like chomping into person. Of course, flipping roles because normally the human eats the candy apple.
Mm-hmm.
This time
Oh
yeah,
wow,
I know,
crazy.
so deep.
Yeah.
Um, Just saw that, loved it, probably gonna play it in some capacity. Like -3/-3 for 2 mana is like already pretty good
Hmm.
instant speed. And if you're interested at all in sacrificing stuff, this could become a real powerhouse,
For sure.
which I think was the problem with the previous version at -2/-2. It was just too bad on the
Hmm.
front end. I think this is them acknowledging that like this is the fixed version, um, where it's like probably not quite good enough if you have no interest in sacking stuff, but quite good if you do.
Hmm.
Um, and I love the flavor text.
That's what I was going to point out. Yeah.
Uh, the flavor text is like, "Don't you mean poisonous? There's no such thing as venomous." Ah!
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
That's great.
Oh man. Yeah. I think this card definitely amazing and limited, but could definitely see some standard play. And I wonder how it like playing around cut down is such a thing now, that this card obviously is a good cheap removal spell that also can reach up and hit other things.
Like it trades positively with Shieldred, right?
Mhm.
Like you play this and sack a food token.
Boom.
Bye
That's
bye
amazing.
Shieldred at
Yeah.
instant speed for 2 mana.
Yeah. It's like I don't have to worry about the whole. It also kills like the artifact creatures and stuff, which we've had
Right.
that problem
Yeah,
with
it's
go for
obviously
the
go
throat.
for the throat does what I just said, but go
Hmm.
for the throat is at an all-time low right now.
Yeah,
You can't really play around this one short of
exactly.
having 6 toughness creatures.
Hmm. Which like at that point you're like, yeah, okay, for sure. I guess I'll block and then play this.
At that point, you get messed up by go for the throat. You're like, God,
Mhm.
dang it.
God damn it! And then we go through that whole rigmarole. Um, so the creature I want to talk about dies to Candy Grapple. Um,
Nice.
so this is a card I was interested in, but just don't know if it's going to get there. But I feel like I'm still going to try. Um, so this is Sleep Cursed Fairy. Sorry, wow, I'm really not reading cards right. Sleep Cursed Fairy. It's a single blue for a fairy wizard that's a 3/3 with flying and ward 2. Whoa.
What? That's insane.
Talk about pushing cards. What?
Yeah.
Anyway, it also enters the battlefield tapped with 3 stun counters on it.
Oof.
Wah, wah. Uh, and you can also pay 1 in a blue to untap Sleep Cursed Fairy. So at first, I was like, okay, here's a 1 mana 3/3. It has stun counters on it, but stun counters only care about the untap step. I can just untap it with 1 in a blue, and then I can attack with it. No, that's not what stun counters do. In fact, stun counters trigger anytime it's going to become untapped. Instead of untapping it, you would just remove a stun counter from it. So essentially, this card says 1 in a blue, untap, or 1 in a blue, take a stun counter off of it. So you could
Much worse.
spend a lot of the beginning of your turns just or the game just trying to untap your 3/3 flying board 2. Um, luckily, the ward makes it a lot harder to get candy grappled, and it can't be cut down, which was the number one reason I was excited about this card. Like a 1 mana play that doesn't get cut down. Yes. I was like, thank you. And it's a fairy. So I was like, okay, but the fact that it just doesn't do anything for so many turns is just not
Yeah.
not really exciting. Um though though I did see something online which is
Here we go.
disgusting.
Here we
Um
go.
so you could play Sleep Cursed Fae as well as another card from the set, which is an artifact, and it's at Mythic. It's called Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which is a 2 mana legendary artifact. It says you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and you can tap the cauldron to exile target creature card from a graveyard. When when a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. All right. So already the cauldron and our sleep cursed fairy, I want to say fae, but I really just have a hard time with that, are looking pretty good. All right. So untapping stuff traditionally is
Right.
just great. So if you remember, I'm looking up the actual name of this card. But in Kamigawa, we had a green Kami that I'm just going to explain it to you. So it's like 3 mana 1/1 that taps for mana of like X. It taps for X mana of any one color equal to its power. And then whenever a +1/+1 counter would be put on it, you get 2. So if you have the
Okay.
cauldron and you have the Fae in your graveyard, you can tap it to exile it to put a +1/+1 counter on the Kami, which gives it 2 +1/+1 counters. So now it taps for 3 mana. And because it has a +1/+1 counter, it can untap itself for 2. And you can use any color of mana you want to do that. So you just get infinite mana in standard. So we
Pretty
can
cool.
do stuff with that.
Love it.
Now, this is not necessarily the type of deck I will be playing. However, anytime there's a 3 card combo that makes infinite mana in standard, I think it should be recognized and tried as much as possible. Because
Absolutely.
yes, I'm always excited for something like that.
Yeah, no,
Even though,
that's really cool. As soon as you mentioned the Soul Cauldron, I was like,
mhm,
right, abuse the untap. Yes,
yes,
yes, that's
so
because untapping stuff is always busted.
it's always busted, especially stupid dorks.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Sleep for Cursed Fairy itself, I'm glad they put the reminder text on there
mhm.
because there'd be so much confusion with this card otherwise. Um, and I think it's one too many. If this has 2 stun
Mhm.
counters, I'm interested. At 3, get out of here.
Yeah.
And by interested, I mean like maybe I can
Mhm.
make this work. At 3, it's sort of like no, there's no hope. It reminds me a little bit of way back when there's like a 3/3 flying angel for 2, I want to say,
Oh yes, but you can
but it
only
can't attack on the first 3 turns of the game or
no
block or something. You
you
can't even
can't
cast
play
it.
it. Yeah.
Can't cast it for the first 3 turns. And that was this is like a modern day version of that. It's
Mhm.
like just doesn't do anything for several turns, and then it's like the whole point of this card is that it's good early.
So
So unless you're comboing it somehow with ways to remove counters or
or
the
do
counters
something.
can't be placed or
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you're playing
Um,
Solemnity or something like that, then yeah.
but
Um,
on its own, this isn't too appealing.
yeah, this is not like the like imagine like we're just thinking about this card on turn 1, like how it's almost
Oh
kind
my
of close to
god,
there.
imagine.
Imagine
I
drawing
guess in the
this late.
late game. So, okay, I guess if you draw it late, because the stun counters stop it from untapping, like you could just activate this 3 times or whatever and get them all off.
I really love a 7 mana 3/3 flying ward too. Like that's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
It's pretty bad. I
But
mean, ultimately, it's not really 7. It's probably closer to 5 because you'll get one untap step.
right,
So, but still,
can't
it's
block
bad.
it. It's like yeah,
It's.
it's terrible.
Mhm. Um, this is a show like when I was thinking that the stun counters only cared about your untap step. Um,
Yeah,
because
then we're having a
yeah,
discussion, right?
where it's like,
But
okay,
it's still not clear, right? Like you're still
mm-mm.
paying 2 mana to use this every turn.
Yeah, 2 mana to deal 3. Like that's what you're hoping. Um, yeah, not really great. Um, so this, and there's a couple other fairy cards that make me kind of scared that deck's like this. The fairy spells, I'm
Hmm.
on board for. The actual fairies, I'm a little worried about. Like they're not
Yeah.
really getting there. So there's probably like two, and that's why I'm thinking like, oh, okay, well then rogues only had two. Maybe that's enough.
Right. Yeah. Rogues dominated with just two good creatures
So
and
uh
one shitty one.
yeah, we don't talk about that one,
Yeah.
but
Here he's still robbing the winds.
uh, why did you even? You had to. I could see that turning in your head. um. Anyway, Jeff, we're coming to the end of this. Do you have one more card you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I do.
Okay.
And I think this is probably just a limited card,
All
but I
right.
love it.
I'm on board for this. I love limited cards.
So let's jump in on Knight of Sweet's Revenge. And this is a enchantment for 3 and a green. When it ETBs, create a food token.
Mm-hmm.
I love cards that say that. You had me at create a food token. It says foods you control can tap to add green mana. Huh?
Mm.
I'm already interested. And then you can tap 7 and sack it to give creatures you control plus X till end of turn. X is the number of foods you control. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay. This. So one could say this is a 4 mana do nothing. That's not quite right
Mm-hmm.
because artifacts can tap immediately. So it
Mm-hmm.
immediately gives you back 1 mana. If you have any food at all, it'll give you back, 2, 3 mana. This could give you back the mana that was spent to cast it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not that unreasonable. Like, won't happen all the time, but if this ends up realistically costing you 1 or 2, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that's unusual.
No.
Um, and then it has this essentially like kind of a you win the game type ability. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't have trample or whatever, but it gives you a I think in limited this type of effect is often undervalued because it's like, oh, it doesn't have trample or menace, so you don't win the game. It's like, okay, but everything I have is a 7/7. It must all be blocked. My opponent's board is wiped. It's gone.
And I kill them next turn.
Right. In what
Yeah.
situation am I not winning next turn? In standard or whatever in modern, that's a fair argument because there's Wrath of God type of stuff. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
powerful enough to. But in limited, like, come on, that ability is winning the game,
Mm-hmm.
and you're almost always going to do that next turn. So, I don't know. This seems kind of like a limited bomb to me, especially in a food themed kind of deck.
Deck. Um, yeah, I think this card seems great. Like, and obviously for the reasons that you said, but like the biggest one is like even just playing this card and just being able to ramp out big stuff. Like, it's so normal for you to turn 4, play this, and then play a 2 drop or a 3 drop. Like that's
Exactly.
going to happen so much, which is the biggest
Yeah.
thing. Like, also, this isn't a 4 mana do nothing. It's a 4 mana make a food at the very least. So it's
Right.
not even do nothing. Um, so good job. Get the food. Um, but yeah, the fact that you get to do this, and like, for whatever reason, originally when I was reading this, I thought it was going to say sacrifice that many foods, and that's how much attack you get. But you get to keep your food tokens.
Yeah, the food's still sticking. So when I read it, I assumed the foods were becoming creatures somehow because
Hmm.
it's the night of the sweets
Sweet, yeah,
revenge.
that's true. That would make
That's not
sense.
really true though. The
No,
foods just like stick around and like they give the other people energy or something
but
without
then
being eaten.
yeah, they just they don't get consumed. They just
Yeah,
they look at, it's like everyone is like fighting to get to them or something. I don't know.
right.
I
Yeah,
don't
they're
really understand.
inspiring. But
Yeah. But no, I think it seems very good, and will kind of be the way that people will win a lot of the time in those decks. That's going to be like, oh, how many did you get? Which I think two is probably the most you'd want. Once you get a little bit above that, it's kind of dicey. Um, but also just being like, no, this is also just part of my food ramp deck, where it's like, yeah, this lets me play all my big stuff the next turn, and
right.
then the worst case scenario, I have to actually crack it. But it literally coming down and being like, next turn I'm going to play a bunch of big creatures. Like that's just great. Like,
Yeah, and it goes both ways, right? Like
mhm,
I can ramp into big stuff, or I can take advantage of the board I've built so far.
mhm.
Usually it's either a ramp card or a weenie card. This one's somehow kind of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows how many, like, obviously how many food you've made previously in the game, but also think of the creatures, or like the apple that is a food, or tough cookie, which is also a food, that
Right?
like all those little things um will become really important. I think it's sweet. Um and yeah, definitely, like, this is another card that you open in your draft pod, you're like, do I just play this deck and first pick it and just go on that train
Let's just do
immediately?
the thing. Yeah.
Because that's I think that, the contenders for the let's do the thing is this, and the apple, if you want to be sacrificing people's stuff. I guess you would be stealing their smaller things, but still. Um
Yeah.
there is a lot of incidentals, like make a token of target creature you control, make a token of target token you control, kind of stuff.
Right.
um which is super weird, but I'm down for. um yeah, this is gonna be sweet. I'm i'm happy with the set.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Oh, before I forget, before we go to the last call, I had one more thought about Ashiok that I forgot to say while we were talking about Ashiok,
Cool.
which is Ashiok's passive ability. It feels so much like an arena ability,
Mm,
because you don't want to have to constantly just count your library. Because
right.
it specifically cares about uh, paying no more than the amount of cards in your library. And in a regular game, you're just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and keeping them in order and all
Yeah.
that
Can I pay
stuff.
this?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and you just get to hover over it. Another reason why Arena is so nice, so great.
Yeah.
Join
I
us,
think they're banking on nobody playing it in paper.
basically. Yeah. Or whoever does thinks that that's going to be fun, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, Jeff, let's go to last call. We have some beers to rate this evening.
Yes.
Um, we definitely do. As always, our beers are rated on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. However, this has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently, because everyone is in different tiers at different times. So don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. We hate them. You can't even finish them. You can't drink them. They're like the IPA made this summer, where I just had to pour them down the drain. And I have no idea why they're so bad, but they are.
Silver are bad beers or sort of uninteresting beers. So a
Mhm.
lot of your like macro brews would find their way into this category, or beers that just aren't good.
Yeah. Gold beers are fine, but you won't really think about them again, and they're just there. They're in your liquor store.
Yeah. Platinum is totally solid. You would drink this again. Um,
Yeah, diamond beers are exceptional. You drink these often, and bring them to your friends' houses.
and Mythic, these are the best of the best. You will, sing the praises of these beers.
Mhm. All right, Jeff. I have a can of a beer that I'm going to pick this evening in my hand, and I'm ready
Okay,
for
let's
this.
do it.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Lo siento.
Lo siento.
Wow, that was not surprising at all. This Mexican lager was tasty. Was also different than I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. It was nice.
Mhm,
It felt like an amber to me. I think I was a bit
mhm,
worried whenever you see the word lager, you're like,
mhm.
it tends to invalidate a lot of the things before it, where it's just like all the stuff that comes before lager is now like moot because it says lager.
Except for black lager. That's the only time where I know
Yeah,
for sure
yeah.
we're fine.
Because when you look at it, you're like, yes, it's dark. Um, but this was not the case. This one did still taste like an amber, I would
Mhm.
say. Um, it tastes good.
Yeah, I think it was really nice. Um, but like not in the same that I like the same way I'm used to like amber ales. Um, I don't know what contributed to that, but I don't know specifically what makes it Mexican because all of these hops look very like European to me, but
Yeah, it
delicious
sounded
nonetheless.
German or something.
Yeah, very German, but delicious, and I am not sorry that I drank it. I'm very happy I did.
Yeah, I think for me it's still platinum. Like
Yeah,
I'm not going crazy here, but I enjoyed it.
I definitely enjoyed it, and I would pick up more for sure. Like this
Yeah,
is a solid beer, very good. Um,
exactly.
that's not the case for the other beer we had this evening. Um, the maple butter tart uh, will continue to be in the long list of maple beers that are bad.
Yeah,
Jeff, how much do you have left?
I did finish it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
was saving a little bit. Not that I was really saving it, but
yeah. Relishing it. Um, so I can't give it bronze. I will therefore give it silver.
I I was debating this the whole episode.
Yeah,
Um, I'm gonna give it bronze, but
nice.
that's because if we weren't doing this episode, like I could finish this, but after the first sip, I really didn't want to. Like if I had that beer and we weren't doing the podcast, I would just go up and get another beer. I would tell my waiter, I'm sorry, I actually really don't like this. Like I need something else. Like it was
So I
definitely
actually thought about that because I
Mhm,
anticipated this might be bronze, and I was gonna go just grab a different beer and bring it with me. And I
mhm.
didn't do that. I think if I'd done that, I would have, just opened the next one.
Yeah.
It's after a couple of sips.
Yeah,
Like,
because it definitely it has that maple taste that's artificially mapley. It's very Mrs.
yeah,
Butterworth's and
yeah,
um, other maple beers have had that. I don't know if it's because they use a flavoring that is trying to get that, or actual maple just being fermented. That's just what happens. Um, but it also reminds me of some meads that I've had because mead has the same type of honey, type of waxy, weird taste to it that I don't like, and I don't like it. Um,
yeah. It's not
yeah,
for me, I suppose. Um,
I'm going far enough to say that I don't think it's really for anyone, and it's not.
Maybe we should just let mead die. Like,
Just let it
it's a
die.
thing of the past. We know how to make better alcoholic beverages
Mhm.
now.
I've never I've never had a mead that I liked, and I'm positive the only reason there's so many TikToks that have like mead brewing things is because it's technically so much simpler than making other stuff because you just have honey and yeast. and
Right.
like you just don't have to do other steps. So
This honey has so much sugar in it.
yeah, it's like somebody already just got the sugar for you.
The
Um,
bees did all the fucking work.
yeah, exactly. And you're just fermenting it. Um, anyway, yeah, this was bad.
It's a bad beer. This is the worst beer we've had on the show, I would
It's
say.
100% the worst beer. And that's really why I want to give it bronze to. Like I could stomach the rest of this technically, but I really don't want to. And remembering other like the other maple beer I can think of is one that we haven't done on the show that isn't made anymore, I don't think. Thank God. But I remember bringing one and I picked up my partner from their job and we were walking home and I cracked it and I had a couple sips. I'm like, I I don't like this so much so that I don't want to hold it in my hand anymore. And I just put it on like a trash can and I just like walked away. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want this at all. Please, like as
That's
soon
the
as
epitome
possible.
of a bronze beer right
It
there.
was
That's
I can't even just it was awful. So this immediately gave me the same smell and taste to that, and it's 100% the maple. So yep, maple and beer don't go together.
yeah.
Yeah. Though
Well, we did it. We got a bronze beer on the show.
got a bronze beer. Though
Now you can stop your search. You have found it.
you know that I'm gonna keep getting the worst beers
I
ever and
know,
just
but
see
it's
if
worth a
there's
shot.
yeah. Anyway, if you want to send us your worst beer recommendations, you can always find us at Arena Regulars on X and Instagram.
I love that you have to say that.
It's so stupid.
Might also find us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me on the Discord because that's a great place to find me. And I don't want to say X again, is really what that is. Jeff, are you also?
Me
Are you?
too. I'm
Yeah,
also on the Discord.
you're on the Discord. That's great. Hey, look at that. Both of us are on Discord. You should just find us in the Discord and chat.
And the link for our Discord channel should be in the show notes.
It is. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to our YouTube channel. Watch this video. We just appreciate all the feedback. But honestly, go to our Discord and join our community.
Yeah.
This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that maple beers are terrible, unlike the mechanics from the upcoming Wilds of Eldraine set from Wizards of the Coast.
Good night. All right, that's fine.